Today's webinar, we will be providing an insight to the integration between RedTeam Go software and the QuickBooks Online integration. My name's Christina, and I'm an integration specialist here at RedTeam. We also have Ted, one of our implementation specialists, who will be monitoring our Q&A box at the bottom. So please add your questions that you have. I'll stop in between and ask if there's any questions. We'll try to get those answered for you. So to set the stage as to what this webinar will be covering, we're going to first touch on some of the benefits of having an integration. And then we're going to walk through the setup of that integration and then show a few transactions in RedTeam and how they flow over to QuickBooks Online. So that being said, one of the biggest benefits of having an integration is that you will eliminate that duplicate entry. The integration to RedTeam Go and into the QuickBooks Online, they will push the transactions as they are approved and accepted. And so your accounts receivables, those invoices for payables, they will all move into QuickBooks Online as you accept them and approve them inside RedTeam Go. Now, once you determine that you have an integration that you would like to start utilizing, you want to purchase this, or it's part of your initial sale, we will, as part of the welcome call, send out a resource document that I have now pulled up for you. And this resource document will provide every single step that we will walk you through, hold your hand, and just get this all connected so that you're successful in your integration. Now, there's a few things that have to be prepared, and a couple of those are on this page here that we want to, it's kind of blurry, but when you have it in person, needless to say, it won't be, but you will have the general ledger accounts that we connect to. We have a revenue account, and then we have several cost of goods accounts, as well as some retainage. And then we have the best piece of this under the very bottom is your trigger points for syncing your data, so that anytime you don't remember what syncs which, over and what it comes in as, this trigger point, these 2 pages here at the bottom are always great to refer back to. So that being said, we will now move over to the software. And as I mentioned, the double elimination will be eliminated. So that minimizes your risk for errors. It will also provide more efficiency. Your project managers will be able to see all their information inside the integration in the job cost statements. And so the integration is a great tool. Now, when we get started inside RedTeam Go, I'm at the main global dashboard that we would move over to the accounting tab here on the right-hand side. We're already connected. Needless to say, this is our demo database. So I am going to choose your QuickBooks Online integration, and this would all be empty. What would be here is a little box that says connect to QuickBooks Online. It will say connect. You'll choose that little box. And when you do that, it will reroute you to your QuickBooks that says, do you want to integrate? And when you say yes, then it will connect and bring you back to this screen. Now, one thing to note is that you do need to be an administrator within your QuickBooks Online, as well as RedTeam Go, to make this connection with myself or any other integration specialist here at RedTeam. With that, there are 3 buttons here. One of the buttons is settings. So we're going to move into the settings area. And this is where the configuration happens. Our programming team automatically will have the programming set for your default item codes for the owner billing. So the left side here does not get changed unless you think you need something changed there, and then you would notify us and we would walk through that to make sure that that's a good fit. But we typically do not see any clients changing any of these defaults. This makes sure that your revenue posts correctly. On the right side, your notification of recipients are whomever you are needing. You're not going to have as many as RedTeam has, but if you have a check mark here, you're going to be able to say, hey, I want this individual to receive notifications such as any type of error notifications. If a change order is created or for a budget, if an owner pay application has been completed and signed, and now as the accountant, you need to take a look at that, review it, and then approve it and then notarize it. So these would be the individuals that you would want to choose and put a check mark by. The next section we have is a concierge type area that you get to choose some defaults. So the first one is activate integration by job. When this is marked with a little check mark, you will then have, every time you set up a project, you'll have a toggle that you can say, I want to push this project over to QuickBooks Online, or you can leave it not to where it would push. You'll have that option. If you do not have this check marked, that toggle box will not be there and everything will push over to QuickBooks Online. The next section here is your estimate. And it provides the option that you can choose your construction budget, which we typically kind of explain as your GC buyout. So it's what you provide to that GC, to that owner of that project. And then the owner is basically what you're providing that owner of the project in a bidding status. So some clients, when they're in the bidding process, they will separate your profit line, you itemize your markups, and you have every single cost code. There are options when you're actually doing your budget that you can then choose some of that information to summarize your cost codes. You can actually divide those, show them in which ones you want to show. You can actually itemize them. So there are options there also, but we see most of our clients choosing the construction budget. The negative expenses as vendor credits provides, it's a default, but we have this so that when you have a vendor credit, it will automatically relieve your accounts payable inside QuickBooks Online as it pushes over, as if you have something that's returned. Then your field POs, you have that as an activation as well, because typically those field POs are sometimes things that have already been purchased. So you want that to move into QuickBooks Online as a bill. Inside your expenses, you also have the option of choosing purchasing a purchase order, moving into QuickBooks Online, or a bill. So there are options there as well. On the right side here, the vendor contact information is defaulted as we typically see where our clients want the vendor's name, not the contact name. So that shows that that is automatically defaulted. You can change that. The big three here are the owner billing and the sub billing, and they are by application date or approved notary date for the owner billing. So how I like to explain this one is if you're creating an owner bill for the month of November, November 1 through November 30, let's say you are out, it falls on a weekend, the 1st. And so that billing is dated the 11/30 of 2023. Now you don't come in till December 2nd and you get it approved and notarized. At that point, that owner billings is going to push over to QuickBooks Online as a December revenue. That being said, you can choose this application date. It will move over there as application date. The sub-bill date provides you the ability to also do the same thing. Your bill date for when your subs and you're entering those invoices would go into November so that it would match your revenue, matching expenses with your revenue, versus when it's approved and accepted. The last option here is your sub-bill memo field. And this is a great option because you can add your invoice number or your project number to those checks that are written inside QuickBooks Online. So this information would flow over to that memo line. One of the things I always want to mention, and I didn't mention up here, is that you want to ensure that you save anytime you make changes. If you make a new person, someone that is going to receive notifications, you want to save, as well as any changes here, you're going to want to choose save. Otherwise, it will not take effect, and they only take effect from the point that you make those changes, not anything retro. The next section is where we really connect your general ledger of your QuickBooks Online with RedTeam Go. The left side, you can see that QuickBooks income account. So to explain this, your owner billing, the whole amount goes into your income account and receivables. So you want an income account. That type has to be an income account here. To find it, all you have to do, once we're connected, RedTeam Go will see your general ledger. You have this drop-down box that you can actually type in income, and at that point, all your income accounts will come up. So based on that, we have our sales construction revenue account, and we have that all the way down because any of your cost codes that you're going to be billing, you're going to want it to go to your revenue account. So this side is pretty easy. The right side is also easy. It's your expense account. It's your cost of goods sold. And your cost of goods sold, we see that sometimes our clients do not track an architect fee or your engineering, but these customer codes, you can choose other cost of goods sold. But should you want to say, hey, I do want to track my engineering fee, you could set up a general ledger code inside QuickBooks Online, and then we would find it by choosing the arrow, the drop down again, and then finding that account. Should you change, set it up and then want to track it down the road, you would just need to come back into your QuickBooks Online, your settings, and then change it, and be sure and click the save. We have the ability to connect to your equipment, as well as your permit fees, your subcontractors, your overhead. So it determines how you want to track all of that in your financial statement in your cost of goods sold area. The next section is your payment method to QuickBooks. So inside QuickBooks, you have payment methods such as your American Express, your checking account, any type of credit cards. The one we do need to set up and we require is your vendor credit, so that when you do enter those vendor credits, they will relieve your accounts payable inside your QuickBooks Online. And that is your accounts payable. Where you go to configure these settings is whatever is in QuickBooks Online, you will want to come into expenses there's a gear over here and it has manage payment methods. When you click on that, you can just start typing Visa, if I can type, and then choosing the plus sign. You add any of them that you want, and should you have a credit card or a bank account that no longer you have, say, checking 1, 2, 3, 4, and now you've gone with Chase, and you want to put Chase 5, 6, 7, 8, you can add Chase 5, 6, 7, 8, and so that the project managers and individuals entering expenses for a payment method, you can choose the trash can. It won't change any of what's happened in the past, but that will not, payment method will never be available again for somebody to choose. Come back into your okay, we've been disconnected. So we're going to show this. We're going to come in and we're going to connect. And we've basically connected. So now we're here. Once you have transactions flowing, you will be able to see those transactions here. We'll go over that here in a moment, but let's go back to our settings. And once we come back into the payment methods, we will see that I added that Visa down here as a payment method, and we can choose credit card for a type, and then we would find it in, by choosing just the arrow down, we would find it within our QuickBooks. The last section over here is your RedTeam concierge for retainage. So should you use retainage, we normally see a accounts receivable and other asset set up in your general ledger, as well as an other liability, retainage, payable, so that you have a product code service that is utilized when billing, and then that way it will pull those dollars into the balance sheet account to the receivable or payable on the balance sheet. And you would use the retainage again by finding it in your drop down. Are there any questions on this section or any of that I've covered so far?
Christina, we don't have any questions in the chat right now.
Okay, thank you. So with that, now we're going to go back over to the integration, and I'm going to cover a little bit here. One of the pieces here is that as you utilize and move invoices, you enter your invoices, your subcontractors enter invoices, you have a budget, subcontract, they are going to, as they get accepted and approved, they will move over. As you can see, these are successful. I have one down here that was failed, and I did want to show this one because this is a common error message. Because if you have a vendor who then becomes a customer, those names have to be a little bit different so that you know that one is a customer and one is a vendor. For this one, it appears that, and we try to break things and we want to show things, that the owner can, this RedTeam owner cannot be updated because the customer name already exists in QuickBooks. So it could be that it was what I was just speaking about, 2 names, or it also could be that it is been inactivated inside QuickBooks or deleted even in QuickBooks so that you are unable to see it inside QuickBooks Online. RedTeam has to be able to find that vendor, and the names have to be exactly the same for the customer or the vendor. So if you start a project inside QuickBooks Online, you will need to copy that name over into QuickBooks into RedTeam Go so that the names are the same, there's no spaces. You want to ensure that everything will flow, and that would be the proper procedure. With that, now I was going to go over to expenses and show you that inside expenses, when you have something that is not been accepted here, all of these have not been accepted. So you have the option of accepting. So it goes through the approval process. You now can accept. You can still edit it and you can delete it. Those being the case, then at that point, you are able to accept. It will then push over to QuickBooks Online. So one of the items I wanted to show you, and we'll choose all, you do have this funnel that you can review what's been approved and not accepted, which is what we have. You can see what has been approved and accepted, some that have been avoided, and some that have been approved and not accepted. So I'm going to say all at this point. I'm going to go ahead back to my Lakehurst. And as you
Christina,
can see,
I'm sorry to interrupt you. When you have a moment, we have 2 questions in the chat.
okay, all right. Go ahead.
The first one is could you review how to enter a sub bill? Do you want both questions right now, or do you want to take that one first?
Sure. Go ahead and
Okay.
do the other one as well.
Yeah. The other one, they're asking us to explain the relationship between labor timesheets entered in RedTeam Go and how they reflect in QuickBooks. And are the actual labor rates entered in RedTeam Go so they show on the budget?
Okay. The first one, let me finish this because I do want to show it over in QuickBooks, and then I can show a sub bill. So let's go there. So as you can see, we have some that have been accepted. So this is $750 for everything subcontractor. And when you now, because it's been accepted, you can only unaccept it and you can print it at this point. So if you unaccept it, it will then be able to be edited. But you will need to remember that if once you unaccept it, you edit it, correct whatever needs to be done, and accept it so that it pushes back over into QuickBooks Online, you will need to delete the first one that went over, because we do not pull back that first initial transaction push. So now I want to show you inside RedTeam Go that once it pushes over into QuickBooks Online, you will be able to see, here is that bill for everything subcontractor, and it's the $750. And if we were to open it up, you're going to be able to see what the cost code was, what the project was, how much it was. So for your information on the QuickBooks side, this is what it would look like inside QuickBooks Online. Now I'm going to go ahead and finish the showing of how the transactions push. I'm going to go over to an owner billing, and inside our Lakehurst, so we will move here to billing. We're going to go to owner A. And as you can see, these two here have been signed by the GC and notarized. If we wanted to review it, you can still, anything that's blue hyperlinked, you can see what makes up that line. You can look at what the totals are. Once the invoice has been signed, you can only void or revise it. You can print it, and you can then print it just the bill, or with the lien release attached. When we come back over here to owner A, I wanted to show number 3, which doesn't have any dollars yet, but the actions are that you can sign it, you can add a phase, you can add a change order. Anything that has been approved and accepted from an invoice standpoint will pull in automatically, and the GC, whomever is creating that owner billing, can add it or ignore it. They can manually add the work in progress. So you can put $500. And at that point, you would have $500 in here. It will take the retainage that is supposed to be on the taken out for each one, whether it's 10%, 5%, and then you have your total. Now, how that moves into QuickBooks once it's signed. So we'll go over here and we're going to look at the one that I showed you, the first one, which was $115,000. And once we click on that and we open it up, you will be able to see all the lines again that pertain to the owner billing. And you will see that last line of retainage where it takes it out and it pushes it to your QuickBooks Online into the retainage receivable account. Now, to go back into RedTeam and show where you have a sub-bill, you're going to go to your accounting tab. And if the subs are not entering their own pay applications, you can add a new sub-bill here. So you can have a sub-bill list, you can have your schedules, but once you click on the sub-bill, it will indicate create a new bill. So on this sub arrow, we have what has already been the schedule of values, what's already been billed, and then we can add, we can add based on what they have sent us in their pay application that they want work performed that they have completed. So we would add whatever it may be, and then it will provide a balance. It'll take out the retainage and it'll say what's payment due. At that point, it's just submitting the bill. You can attach documents, and once you submit the bill, that is accepting that sub-bill. Did that answer your question for the one that asked that question?
Yes, he said yes, I've answered the question. Thank you.
And then the next one was something to do with the time cards, right?
Right, labor time that's entered in RedTeam Go, how does that flow over to QuickBooks?
Well, this is more for the integration part of it, but the time cards, when you open up time cards, you can view time cards here and choose by your job. And if you, this little bar out of the way, you can add your employee rates. So if you have each individual, you put the hourly rate in. At that point, then you view the time cards and the time sheets. You can do it by pay period. So if I was going to do this one and choose Crystal Labor, and let's do approved, submit. There might not be any. I'm not sure who has any. Wasn't prepared for that one question. So, but let me look. I don't think. Ted, do you have anything in here by chance?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Yeah, I may have to do a video so that I can show you, but once the the rates are entered, the time is entered, then you come into the approved area. You can see that we have some time. We come over, the approval process is right here. And then that flows into your direct labor, GC labor in the settings. And we don't have an API line directly into QuickBooks payroll. So this goes into, these are just your project managers, and it will go over as a dollar value. It does not calculate overtime, and that's where that will show up. So that answers hopefully that question. And if not, I can get more detail and do a video to show you how that flows and what it looks like, and send it to you after the integration, this webinar is completed, if that works. And then from there, I think the only other thing I was going to really show is that, from the expense side, I was going to show adding a new expense so that I could show here at the bottom that you have these two boxes where I had mentioned you can send it to the next person for approval and assign a purchase order, or now I want to also send it in as a vendor bill into your QuickBooks Online. So I did want to show that, and I believe we've covered everything that needs to be covered as far as the integration port. If there's not any additional questions, Ted, do we have any more that have come in?
No, ma'am, you've answered all of them.
Okay, so at that point, I appreciate you all coming in and watching the webinar. Know that we have this bubble that we call, it's a bubble. Let me, lost my mouse. It's not working. Right here, that if you have questions, that we have support that is there from 8 o'clock in the morning Eastern time to 8 p.m. Eastern time, so that you can come in, ask, hey, I forgot where to do, where I find this. We also have a knowledge base. When you click in there, you have the help button. So the help button provides that you can type in RedTeam Go field PO. And when you search that, you will get how to replace items on the field POs and expenses. You can put in owner billing. You can put whatever you are needing some additional information on. So that is a benefit as well. We do have also some webinars and items on our main redteam.com website, and we have our upcoming webinars there as well. But I do thank you again for attending our webinar today, and we hope that it was beneficial.